Hello everyone, I am Dr. Scholastica Ezeribe, your facilitator for EGC 804, Techniques of Counseling. Today, we are going to look at interview in counseling, and we're going to look at the meaning of interviews. We are also going to look at the types of interviews in counseling. So I want you to know that the lesson for today is going to be very, very interesting and exciting, as we are going to also to look at the types of interview. We are going to look at questioning in interviews. What are the questioning techniques that are used in interviews? We want to look at this questioning very, very well. The type of questioning that is good for interviews in counseling, the needed skills in questioning. We also go to look into rapport in counseling, building a rapport with your client. It is very, very important. Without rapport building, you cannot make it in counseling. You cannot have a successful interview. You cannot have anything successful in counseling. So I want you to sit back and enjoy this lesson. Sit back, enjoy this lesson as we move on. Thank you and God bless. Yes, our topic for today, or the course we are taking, is EGC 804, Techniques of Counseling. The topic is interview skill in counseling. And we have intended learning outcomes. What do we stand to gain at the end of this lesson? And we say, by the end of this lesson, the student should be able to discuss the meaning of interview in counseling. They should be able to interview clients very, very well. They should be able to build rapport with clients. And finally, they should be able to develop quality questioning skills. And then we'll get to the first thing. What is interview? Interview is called communication with a purpose. An interview is a procedure designed to obtain information from a person through oral responses to oral inquiries. Look at the picture here. You can see the man with a red tie. You can see the boy or the person, I think is a boy, with a yellow shirt. If you look at them, they are talking to each other. It's an interview position. The man in a suit with red tie is interviewing the boy in yellow shirt. And so interview refers to one-on-one conversation between an interviewer and an interviewee. Now, the client is seated here, in supposedly the one with red shirt, and the interviewer is the man in red tie. So you can see them. It's a face-to-face thing. They call face-to-face conversation. They are talking to each other, and this talking to here now is communication with a purpose, and that is interview. Communication with a purpose, a one-to-one relationship, a one-to-one conversation between an interviewer and an interviewee. The interviewer here, as you can see, is the man in red shirt, and the interviewee is the boy in yellow shirt. So interviewing is a skill in itself, and one in which your ability to interact with the interviewer and to articulate your thoughts are factors that are very, very important. Now we look at counseling interview. Counseling interview is a process whereby the counselor engages a client in a one-to-one interactive process using questions to obtain relevant information needed to solve the client's problem. If you look at the picture here, you also see it is a one-to-one relationship, and it is interactive, where the counselor engages the client in order using questions to obtain relevant information. And this information here that the counselor is getting is needed to solve the counselor's problems. So, interview focuses on gathering information. It is a method of information gathering that cannot be done without in counseling. There is no counseling without interview. In fact, from the beginning of the counseling session to the last stage of the counseling session, we have interviews, because there is need to get this information from the client in order to help him or her out of the problem. In fact, if there is no interview, there is no counseling. And so we say we have different types of interview in counseling. Interviews in counseling can be structured, it can be unstructured, it can be semi-structured. So it is actually of three types: semi-structured interview, structured interview, and unstructured interview. When the interview is structured, it means it is designed in such a way that you are talking about a particular thing. There is a particular information you want to get, and so you tailor the whole questioning to that. So structured interviews are limited, they kind of are specific. The interviewee is not given the opportunity to expand or to freely give his own information, to freely express his ideas. There are particular things that are needed, and so he gives it. So for the unstructured interview, here we see that the interview is not actually structured. It is free. You can ask a question and the person goes on. It is free. The person generates his own idea, talks about his own idea. It is not restricted to any particular area. And then the semi-structured is in between the structured and the semi-structured. Now, the interview ideally in counseling should be unstructured and flexible to enable clients to respond to questions without restrictions, or quite unlike the structured interview where the questions are with restrictions. Unstructured interview, which is what we use in counseling, is actually preferred, and because it is flexible, it allows the clients to respond to questions without restrictions. Look at the picture, you can see the two people here. That is an interview situation, an interactive relationship, face to face. So we go on to the same thing. What is counseling interview? Continued. An effective counselor will use interviewing as he helps his client through his issues or their issues, because the information you gather from the interview section is what you work with in order to help the client. Look at that, the counselor here now, the man in red tie, is gathering information. At the end of the day, what will he use information to do? To help the interviewee. Now, the interview involves establishment of rapport and the development of good questioning techniques. And that is where we are going to dwell today. That is rapport establishment and the development of good questioning technique. And we say a counselor needs to prepare for interviewing by getting ready to ask questions, by personally developing himself through the knowledge of his questioning skills, and having ability to build rapport between him and his clients. So, why do we have counseling interview, or what are the objectives of counseling interview? The main reason for counseling interview is to collect necessary information about the client so as to be in a position to satisfy the expectations of the client. We gather information from through interview in order to help the clients. In the next video, you shall have your client's activity 1. So take your time. In a minute, summarize what you have learned so far about interviews in counseling. Welcome back. Now we go to questioning in counseling interview. The counselor's ability to ask relevant and effective questions during counseling interviews or relationships will go a long way in achieving counseling goals. That is, gathering the information to help solve the client's problem. Questions during counseling session can help to open up new areas for discussion. Questions can assist to pinpoint an issue and clarify information that at first may seem ambiguous to the counselor. Questions can help clients to think or recall information that can aid in their journey of self-exploration. You can see the picture here, the man at the center and the question marks all over, asking questions in order to obtain information. Questioning in determining effective counseling techniques, it is important to consider the nature of the client, the ongoing relationship with the counselor, and the issues at hand. There are two major types of questions used in counseling: the closed-ended questions and the open-ended questions. And so what we are saying here is that before you take up any type of questioning with a client, you need to know the type of client, you need to know the issues he's having, you know, to have a look at the personality before you go on questioning, and the way, and also knowing the way you put up the questions. But basically there are two types of questions used in counseling, and that's the open-ended question and the closed-ended question. We see the closed-ended questions demand yes or no answers, and we don't encourage them in counseling. We use open-ended questions in counseling. They are encouraged, and so you have to use this open-ended question in order to obtain your information. And so open-ended questions are those questions that cannot be answered in a few words. There are no yes or no answers. They encourage the client to speak and offer an opportunity for the counselor to gather more information about the clients and their concerns. Not just asking a question you ask and you say, why is it, just what is your name? You say, my name is Dr. Zeribe. Finish. No, you ask questions that should be able to bring out more information for the counselor to use in dealing with the client's concerns. Typically, open questions, that is open-ended questions, begin with what. What now will tell you the main thing the person is saying. Why kind of brings out the reasons. How will tell you how the thing is done or could. So these are the words that you use mainly in asking open-ended questions. So you are encouraged, like we see here, question all over around the individual in the center. So in asking questions, remember that the type of client you are dealing with is important. The type of question you engage in is important. You don't ask closed-ended questions, you ask open-ended questions. And so in questioning two, it should be noted that care must be taken by the counselor when asking probing and why questions. Why questions can provoke feelings of defensiveness in clients and may encourage clients to feel as though they need to justify themselves in some way. But you should caution yourself. We have said it is needed to be used in open-ended questions. But in using it, you have to be very, very careful. So we get to rapport in counseling. I told you we are going to dwell on this questioning and rapport. So rapport in counseling interview. Rapport is a friendly relationship in which a connection of mutual trust, empathy, emotional affinity, and understanding and respect is established. It can be considered as a state of harmonious understanding with another individual or group. Look at the picture here, you can see it. There are, we can say there is an understanding, mutual trust, and emotional affinity between these two young ladies here, and that is why they can agree and they are playing with the puppy. So it is a mutual trust, empathy, and affinity between the client and the counselor. Sometimes rapport happens naturally in a relationship. In counseling interview, the counselor should establish and sustain good rapport with his client in order to relax and assure him that he is in safe hands. In interviewing, counselors try to help clients feel comfortable so that candid and relevant information is revealed. So it is very, very important to establish rapport. If you don't establish rapport in the counseling interview, you are not going to make it. The client will not open up to. And so we have skills for rapport building. First of all, you introduce yourself, you invite the client to sit down, you ensure the client is comfortable, address the client by his name, invite social conversation. You can talk about the happenings in the now, so as to reduce the anxiety of the client. Then you watch for non-verbal behaviors as signs of client's emotional state. Invite client to describe his or her reason for coming to talk with you. Allow the client time to respond. Don't rush him. Indicate that you are interested in the person. Make the client to feel important and do so sincerely. Show respect for the client's opinions. Never say you are wrong. If you yourself you are wrong as a counselor, admit it quickly and emphatically. Let the other person save face. So it is important. You have these skills, you are good to go. If you apply it, and I expect you to apply it in your plan. So in the next slide, not video here, in the next slide you have your class activity 2. The class activities now. Why should the counselor establish rapport with his client? Answer this and you'll be able to know the importance of rapport building. So thank you very much for watching my video, and God bless.